next project, which I've already started, is going to be getting ready for some vineyard action. A couple years ago, I dug a trench right here when I had I'm trying to remember. I think it was when I was borrowing a mini excavator or something. I had something to dig this, and so I figured let me just run the pipe and stub out a foot or so of PVC, so that way I'm ready for this. So I really just dug a line, boom, laid the pipe, put in a T, stubbed out about a foot or so out of the ground. So I think it might have been actually 18-inch cuts. So I took 10-foot sticks, cut 18 inches off, which leaves like 8.5 feet. So I did 8.5 T, 8.5 T, 8.5 T, and then stubbed them. So I pretty much did that with the irrigation, planning to eventually do this. Then I found a guy who was taking his vineyard out, and I bought all this stuff with all these posts. So mostly what started was I found somebody selling these. These are usually about $18 a piece. I can't get them locally, so it's 18 plus shipping. I ended up getting all these and all that poly drip and all the wire and all the netting for about 500 bucks. It's a little more than I wanted to spend, but it's a lot less than retail. So that sparked this whole project getting rolling. Then what I did, because I have these offset at 8.5 is a pretty good number, I just lined them up to where I wanted to go. I'm gonna go parallel to the dirt road here. And then I spaced these. I went back and forth. You could do them at 12s would be pretty tight. Do them at 15s, or you do them any number. So I ended up coming up with, or it could be at 18. I ended up spacing them at 16s, and then 10 rows. So 16 between, 10 rows this way, and just making sure I had everything nice and lined up, because you know, if I stand on the end, I want to have everything straight. So that took 2 people, and we were really trying to hustle it, so I don't have video of it, but we basically get this where we wanted it, set the level here, hold it true, and then we had this slide hammer, like a post driver with 2 handles, bang them in. That was pretty tough on some of this stuff, like especially over there where there's rock. That was really difficult, but basically got those driven. I did play around with the width between a couple of them, because some of them I hit hard boulders and I absolutely couldn't drive them. So I couldn't drive them, and I had to move them like a foot. I would move them a foot, and then I would line them all back up. So it was a little trial and error, but I really want this to look very, very good. It's the main reason. We're not going to make any money selling grapes, but it's partially just for looks. And maybe I'll get a little bit of return, at least to cover some of the cost. But the next thing I need to do, I need to put these end posts. Those were quite a bit tougher, because you're gonna cement them in the ground if you do it right. So I couldn't really find them used, so I did have to find a place to sell those. I was thinking about doing 6-inch. I was thinking about doing 8-inch. I can get at Home Depot 3 to 4-inch, typically about 3.5-inch. But those are a little small, so I ended up finding these. They're calling these 5 to 6-inch. They do vary. These were $25 a piece, just a little under that, and I need 20 of them, so that's like almost $600 in the back of the truck. But these are going to go on the ends, then be driven at an angle and cemented in the ground, and that's going to give me a nice, firm, strong place to tie the cable, you know, to tie the wire, you may say, this wire. But my logic is, you know, I see people, they'll do this one vertical, then they'll do the angle post, and then they'll pull the wire down and do it into a ground anchor. I just always thought that was ugly. I didn't like that. I also want to be able to keep some space between the end and where I have this ice plant. That looks horrible, by the way. This one looks good. So I'm looking to be pretty efficient with space. So I'm figuring if I use some beefy, strong wood posts, I concrete them at an angle, I'm just going to terminate the line right at the angle post. I'm not going to pull an additional one and do an anchor, because then I have a wire to trip on all the way down. So I'm going to do the vineyard in a way that makes sense to me, but that meant using some pretty strong stuff. So I found this. This is it's basically pressure treated redwood. It's designed to be ground contact. You can cement it into the ground. That's what it's made for. You can see it's got a little bit of a green tinge to it because it's been treated with, you know, all the nasty chemicals. But that's gonna be my Saturday. Digging 10 holes, sinking them 2 feet in the ground, mixing up 2 buckets of concrete. But I think it'll be pretty cool. So that's where I'm at on this right now. It's a little labor intensive though. Drive all these posts. I don't remember. I think there's 28 of them. That was a pretty rough day. Not even gonna lie. But back to business. Huh? Will you be in? Just continuing, but we've lined up where these wood posts are going to be, the end posts. Dug the holes 3 feet deep. You can see pretty deep in there. And then we will be ready to set all these. Make sure we like where they're at. Right now that hole's pretty tough. It's DG down there. In fact, it's decomposed granite, but it's not that decomposed. So that's that one we're struggling with. But Tomas is digging, and I know the wind is rough. We got clouds blowing in. I'm working over here because what I'm trying to do is figure out where I'll have these end posts. And what I really want to do is I really want to use this curb to my advantage and have the end posts follow the curb. You know, so I need to make sure they're in line with the posts like that. And you see those posts they're right there. But I need to make sure I catch the end post right in line with those. And I want the end post about 5 feet off of the curb. And so all these posts were in line, and then from here to the wood post was going to be too far, so I went ahead and I popped these couple additional center poles in. That was sort of unplanned, but that way, you know, I can do 2 to 3 vines right here, and then if this comes over about 3 feet to the wood post, boom, land the wood post. And so that way it'll flow right along this curb. So it's not, hasn't been rocket science. It's just, it all really depends on how it digs. So like you can see, even though we have a ton of rain here, that was last week. And so this is pretty dry. So I basically am using that Milwaukee hammer drill. It's like, it's not exactly a roto hammer, but it's a big strong drill, and I'll blast that auger. I got that auger off of Amazon. Both of those 2 augers, a small one and a big one, for like 20 bucks. And they've actually really helped. The small one will be like a pilot hole for the center post, and the big one is definitely helping chew up this stuff when we have to dig that 10-inch by 10-inch by 3-foot deep hole. And then when those are all dug, I'll set the posts. And then this rain is supposed to be hitting within the next hour. So I don't know that I'll get all the holes dug, and he's actually got to go fix a roof. So depending on how much time I put out here in the rain, I might get the holes dug, and then next week we're going to make up the concrete. So it's just like, you know, typical concrete mix, and then set the posts. So getting all the holes done, making sure I like how everything's going to look, because for me, I'm not really going to be producing a lot of grapes. I'm going to be maybe producing enough to hopefully offset some of the cost of installing this, but mostly aesthetics, as they say. So, in these posts, I found these at a local place. Like Home Depot doesn't have stuff like this, so these will be really nice. Check that guy out. Little horned toad. He'll take off here in just a second. Hi. Yeah. And working on the vineyard con Tomas. So let me show you. Just gonna do regular zoom. So all these posts are driven, and then these posts are set in about 2 to 3 feet into the ground, depending on how much granite I hit, and cemented in. And then they've been drying for, well, it was really only needed to be a day, but I left them in for quite a while before I got to this. Now I just got this cable. This is 12.5 gauge from Tractor Supply, high tensile galvanized wire. Put one hole about here, so it's like somewhere between a little over like maybe 26, 28 inches. One hole there, and this is going to be for the water hose. Right, and then just a little bit higher, another hole, and that's going to need another cable, and that's going to be for the main part of the vine. So the vine will come straight up, past the water line just by a few inches, and then tie into this next one, which is about 32 inches. As you can see, just getting a big old drill bit and punching through these pressure treated outdoor cedar posts. They're either cedar or redwood. It wasn't really clear, but it wasn't something I could buy at Home Depot. Right, then got all these posts driven where I wanted them. Now I had to do something a little funny, because let's say like right here, I had to start kind of bringing these this way because I was hitting some major rocks like around like this area. So my stuff is not exactly perfectly square, but what it is, it's in a dead straight line. So I wanted it in a straight line so it didn't look like one's out of place. But if I hit a rock and I couldn't really get through it, I did shift the whole row. I tested that by running an auger bit down like in a drill. If I hit a boulder and I couldn't move it, I'd try to dig it, and if I really couldn't move it, I would just shift them, and then I'd shift them all to stay in line. So one wire is in, and then my ultimate plan will be to have several smaller wires up at the top, about 4, to kind of hold the more leafy vine that doesn't need to be really strong. So this is kind of a big project. Cleaned all this, raked it out, kind of leveled it up a little bit nicer, and I'm flowing with the landscape going up to the curb. So my stuff is a little abnormal shaped, and it's gonna make room for about 130 vines. So let me get back to it here. I have the vines. I'm keeping them wet, but in the meantime, I pre-ran all this irrigation. This is just 3/4 pipe, run from my box right there straight down, and I stubbed them out. And what I'm doing right now is putting these adapters to pipe to poly drip tubing right there. Let me get to that.
Renecito. Que le saque video, dice.
Here's how today's going. That ground is just so hard, it's granite. come together. Right now, that's horse manure, and we're doing it together. We're on a month and a half grapevines in. So 100% pass rate, none of them died. No issues, you can pick any random one, they're growing really good. Some of them you can see are getting to the point where I could actually start fastening them to the trellis wire for the first one. My plan is, like let's say this one right here, the plan is to bring this up, send it this way, this one to split, get that 6 feet, send this one off 6 feet, this one off 6 feet, one direction on the outside, and then the middle one both directions. It's a little non-traditional, but I'm trying to make it look good, but also use the space well. So it's kind of a fun project. I just noticed though, it looks like I'm gonna have a little droop in the hose here, a little sloppy. So what I have been doing is tightening the hose up on the side a little bit, and that's because it's hot. It's like 90 something degrees today, so this is full of hot water, and that expands. So the nice and tighter I get it, the cleaner it looks. But overall, it's pretty clean.